This call is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. This is Renee Rentmeester. I'm creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. And today we'd like to introduce you to Amy Bovaird. Amy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Sounds like you're calling in from Pennsylvania.
Yes, wonderful weather the last couple days.
Ah, that's great. That's great. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're an author, correct?
Yes, I am. Yeah, well, I'm working on a book right now. I've written a series of books on mobility. That's really what changed my life. So
Yeah.
I was wanting to write about my travels, but instead this book kept surfacing. This idea of my learning to use a white cane. So that was the first book that came out.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, tell us about your blindness. What happened?
Okay. So I'm a teacher by trade. I teach English as a second language, and I started traveling and teaching abroad when I was 26, I believe. I met some people in Costa Rica, and they told me about a job in Colombia. And I was so excited. So I was joining this team of teachers from the U.S. in this small school, a private school in Colombia. And that was in 1984, sorry. And yeah, so I taught there 2 years. I taught elementary school. I really didn't have any experience, although that was my degree. And after that was finished. Then I went to Costa Rica. I got a job there teaching third grade.
Oh,
Yeah.
that must have been
So
fun.
Yeah, it was a little bit more structured than the other job that I had. There were several third grade teachers. We kind of all taught the same, that kind of thing, you know. But I loved the travel there. I got to go to lots of beaches and rainforests, and that was nice. Yeah. And then
Oh, that.
go on.
No. I was just saying that going to the rainforest. That sounds great.
Yeah. I had a couple of roommates, the teachers from the school, and so I had one for 6 months. We had a little house off the bus route, and then we moved closer when she left. She left the country after 6 months, and then I moved closer to the school, and they gave me another teacher, a math teacher, to live with, which was quite different. It was a man, so that was an adjustment. Yeah.
At what point did you start losing your eyesight?
Well, I think I was always losing it. I just didn't know. I was losing it. I didn't, pick up on some signs. It was after that job that I was traveling to Ecuador in the jungle, and I noticed that I was having difficulty seeing in the dark, and I was more clumsier than all the other people in my group. And so I after that trip, I came back, and I had actually been offered a job in Indonesia. So I said, oh, I got to go get some glasses, and I got to do all this stuff to prepare. And so it was just one of the other things on my list of things to do. And it turned out to be a 2-day testing. I told him, I think I'm night blind. I told it was an ophthalmologist. And in the end, it just seemed like it tipped him off, and he sent me to a specialist, and they sat me down after 2 days of testing. The specialist and his technician, and said that I have this condition that was going to continue to worsen as I got older. I don't know. They didn't know much at that time what it was going to do, if it was going to be slow or fast. Yeah.
So then, how did it progress?
Well, it was actually quite gradual. So I almost didn't know that it was progressing, because I you know how your brain fills in what you're missing? That's what was
Sure.
happening with me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't really know what I wasn't seeing, except that I would hit my head and I would hit my knees. So I
Oh,
guess it was outside of that vision. Yeah. And
no. You were all bumped and bruised up, and you didn't really know it was your eyesight that that was the cause of
yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah. But I kept on traveling. I kept on teaching overseas. I got a job after the job in Indonesia. Um, I got a job in Japan through the military. I was a civilian working for the military. I set up a language program. And then I got a job in Egypt and Taiwan. So I was still able to travel, and it mostly impacted me in the dark or dark areas.
Sure,
That
sure.
it's still sometimes I missed a step, those kinds of things. It was like a hide and seek vision. Sometimes I
Oh
would just
my
be
gosh.
caught off guard. Yeah, yeah. So so yeah, I just continued on. and
Well, did they ever figure out what it was or what the cause of it was? Did they have a name
well,
for it?
yeah, it was retinitis pigmentosa that
Okay,
they
I
said.
was gonna guess that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Uh, and I also started getting hearing loss along with it. Like,
No.
so in the classroom, I would ask my students to repeat themselves, and they said, and like I didn't quite know why I was having that problem, but the students noticed it before I did, really. And I said, no, I just didn't hear you. And they said, well, you ask us that a lot. and Also, I noticed on the phone that I was having difficulty catching messages and stuff. So yeah, that was. I didn't know exactly what was going on there, but I figured it had something to do with the condition that it was related. So,
Oh,
um,
sure.
so
Well, it sounds like you've traveled the world. It's like, where in the world is Amy Bovaird today? Amy,
yeah,
Amy Bovaird today. You must have like a map on your wall with little pinpoints all over the place.
you know what? I do. I really do. I have a map and I have these big pins, and so when people come to visit me, I show them my my map. And,
Well, what was your favorite place to be at, or your favorite thing to do out of all the countries?
well, I really liked I really liked them all, but I suppose at a certain point I loved Indonesia because it was so very different. There were so many different cultures all living on like sometimes there were three or four cultures living on an island, and so we would go and there was this like little like it's a that song, It's a Small World After All. Well, there was this place called Tamamini, and it was you get to see dances from a certain cultural group. It was just really interesting. I loved it. I loved weddings. I loved the food. I think it was just so different for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what I say? I've lived with people from a lot of different countries, and um, I don't know about you, but it seemed like we were all the same. I mean, like the cultures and different things, but when it just came down to the humanity part, there was not a lot of difference. What do you say about that?
I agree. I agree that that everyone wants similar things. You want, to find someone that you're comfortable with. Your family's important. I think that you're right. When it comes down to it, people want similar things. Yeah.
Right, right. Now, what you've got for us today uh, sounds like something that's especially good after Easter to use up that Easter ham. Tell us a little bit about your recipe.
Okay, it's scalloped potatoes. It's one. It was. I guess I like it because it was one of my mom's favorites, and also it reminds me of Egypt because it has that white sauce. And in Egypt there is a bechamel, which is like a rich white sauce made with whole milk, So I guess it kind of makes me think of that. And although the ham would not be something Egyptians would eat.
Probably not, no.
No, but yeah. So I did use up the ham, and the other reason I wanted to cook that meal is I wanted to share that I have had people be afraid for me to use a knife, and there's a lot of cutting in that meal. You have to slice the potatoes, you have
Right.
to dice the onion, and you have to dice the ham. So I wanted to say that it's if you learn safe techniques to use a knife, you can cook what other people can cook. You don't have to be afraid about that.
No, you
um,
notice I've noticed that a lot of the people we've had on the show, like you say, you learn the correct techniques.
mm,
I think sighted people have a worse time with knives because they're just not thinking as closely, like they're not paying attention because they don't have to, right?
yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
And
That's
they're
right. Yeah.
they're a little more flamboyant with their knife and maybe doing one thing and doing another and cutting the potatoes and but would you mind sharing the recipe with our listeners?
Yeah. So it's like, well, you peel the potatoes, and then you slice about 4 cups of the potatoes. You so that's going to be for the scalloped potatoes. And then you've got the white sauce, which is you start out with just 3 tablespoons of butter or margarine. You add 3 tablespoons of flour, and it bubbles, and I feel that the bubbling, and I can hear it. And then the other thing is you add 2.5 cups of milk at that point. Well, salt and pepper, and 2.5 cups of milk. And I use the whole milk. We just bought it the other day because
Yeah.
I can't. But I love that because it still reminds me of Egypt. And
I
and
like
so
whole milk's my favorite too. That 1% stuff is like colored water.
yes, yeah, that's what my brother says too. And so it's really rich, and so you do that until it boils about maybe 20 minutes if it's on low heat, 15 if it's not. And so I set the timer for a minute, and then you just split it up. You put one layer down with onion and the ham if you want ham or not, depending on what you want. And then you put a cup of the white sauce. You put a second cup of potatoes down, of sliced potatoes, more onion and ham, and you put another layer of the white sauce, and then you add the third layer of potatoes with the rest of the white sauce, and you dot it with a cup of butter or margarine. You put it in the oven for 30 minutes covered. Take it out, or you uncover it, and then you put it in for another 65 minutes, an hour, a little over an hour, and then it should be done.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds great. I know what I'm going to be making this weekend. Well,
Oh.
tell us about your cutting techniques while we're on the subject. How do you cut those potatoes and the ham and everything? What do you keep in your mind when you were doing it?
Well, yeah, I have like what my hand. I'm holding the knife, and then my hand is curled over the knife, like on the one side of the knife, so that I don't cut myself. And I use a smaller knife to slice them. And that when I'm doing the onions, I use like a like a larger knife that's a, a triangular one, and I put my hand over the top of it, and I just cut in a circle, so that my hand's not near the blade. Yeah,
Sure. Well, I know
yeah.
sometimes one of the tricks I've learned from everyone who's been around on our show is you actually if the onion likes to roll around a lot, right? So they tell you to like
Mhm.
cut it and stick it down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. I do that too. I cut it like the rolling part off.
Well, what do you serve with your scalloped potatoes and ham?
Usually just salad. That's usually like a one dish meal.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty filling, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, of all the countries you've been to, which one had your favorite food?
Oh my gosh, every country has like wonderful food. Japan is so healthy. You can buy it every day, fresh food. And Taiwan had wonderful shrimp that, barbecued under the sand, and just wonderful. I like um, the desserts in Colombia, and the borscht from like the Ukraine. It's just all these wonderful mixture. Yeah.
Every country has its own special food, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, now get into a little more depth about your books. Tell us a little bit more about your writing.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. The first book is called Mobility Matters: Stepping Out in Faith. And this is because I sort of was, because my vision loss was gradual, I was kind of in denial. I thought, oh, I'm just clumsy. I don't have I don't read, it was almost like I don't have the like RP, the retinitis pigmentosa. I didn't have I told myself, I don't have the real kind of RP. I guess I just tricked myself. And but when I came home in 2006, my father had cancer, and so I moved back home to be with everyone. He lived about another month after I came home, and that I decided I was going to write about my travels, and I took these writing classes, uh, and I didn't teach. I just tried to get ready for a writing career, to write about all the things I experienced. And in those 2 years, my vision declined a lot. It was like, sometimes I say, it's like walking off a cliff. I just couldn't do anything without repercussions. I live in a small town, which, is, so people are always aware of what's going on, what people are doing, and
Sure.
yeah. So in 2008, I got a teaching job. I wasn't working. I wasn't making enough money selling articles and whatever. So I found a job in my own hometown, which is so small, and teaching Spanish. Well, I got kind of concerned before I taught, and I also taught at the university, which was in a new branch, was in my hometown. And I started getting nervous because I I was running into things and
Oh
tripping
my
over
God.
things. So I also, my hearing had me concerned, because since I'm teaching Spanish, I'm going to have to listen to their pronunciation and correct them.
Very closely, yeah.
Yeah. So I went I went to the like an eye doctor again, a different eye doctor in my hometown. He was an ophthalmologist as well, and he was super nice, really friendly, and he said, you need to talk to someone, a friend of his at the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services. He had a low vision clinic, and so I trusted him. So I finally did call this person, a counselor there. They had it documented that I had RP. I just had to go to the doctor, and the eye doctor, and he would, confirm that I had this. Then they took me on. They had to give me a hearing test, and so I found out that I had moderate hearing loss in one, and a little bit more in the other, hearing loss. And
Did they
so I
explain
figured,
what the connection between the loss of hearing and the losing of your sight? Is there some connection?
we thought that it was Usher Syndrome, but it was
Uh,
sort of a strange one, because with Usher Syndrome, usually you lose your hearing first and then your sight. So he thought maybe the ophthalmologist thought maybe it was the there's a third kind of Usher Syndrome. There's 3 kinds. that you lose your hearing later, like in adolescence or about older. He thought maybe it was that. But when I went to the hearing specialist, they didn't know about it, and the retinal specialist didn't know. It's like they each didn't know about the other one. So we never really figured it out. Yeah. And,
Oh my gosh.
but
Well, anyway, you're I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I started that job teaching Spanish, and I couldn't hear them. And I was leaning in. A month after I started, I was fitted for hearing aids. It was so different. It was like I could even hear them turning the pages of the like I was giving them a test that day, and I could even hear them turning the papers over, you know, and it was like irritating my ears. Everything was super loud, you know.
Now you heard too much.
Yeah. It was a period of adjustment, but yeah. And I didn't tell my students about my vision loss, and I was tripping over their books, and I was running into their desks, different things. I did eventually tell them towards the end of the year what was going on. But it took me a while. It was really they wanted me to see mobility specialist, and I didn't. I put it off, and the one that I saw was completely blind. And I just really feel that God wanted me to work with this person, because maybe if I'd worked with someone who was sighted, I wouldn't feel the need so much. They would be able to tell that this guy he was teaching me how to see with my white cane, and he couldn't see at all. So it was really impactful. It just completely blew me away that he could do that. And I remember that our first blind walk, when I had sleep shades covering my eyes, I thought that he was the expert. He knew my neighborhood better than me, and it was just like such a wow. I don't know. That's why I wrote that first book. It was the journey was so incredible, and the life lessons were strong, really impactful. That he could, by his example, break all those barriers that I had put up.
And the person who was put in your life was put there for a reason.
Yeah.
You didn't did you feel more comfortable because you didn't have to be quote unquote sighted around that person because he wasn't sighted?
Yeah. And I even remember one walk when we were going in my neighborhood, and we met up with one of the neighbors, one of the guys down the street, and he said, "Oh, hello, sir." Like, how did he know that there was somebody there? He was so in tune with this, and he could maybe hear the footsteps, or I don't know what, but he figured it out. And he used to give me these little hints, like, you hold out your hand first if you're going to shake someone's hand, so that they have to find your hand. You don't have to search for theirs, Like, he would give me these little helpful hints. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
But yeah.
Well, you have more than one book now, Amy?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I started feeling a little bit more comfortable talking about my sight loss, in the beginning I didn't ever talk about it. But then when I started blogging about it, and humor sort of snuck into my life. Like I remembered how I handled certain things or didn't handle them, and so I started blogging about them. And so then that was it was called Cane Confessions, the lighter side to mobility. And it was just about, don't take yourself so seriously, adapt.
Right.
And it was like, I was
Well, share
so
one
much
of those
more
funny
comfortable.
stories with us.
Well, okay, so I went to a writing conference in Kansas City, and there were a lot of different events. One of them was a buffet dinner, like a church dinner, and
Sure.
or an informal dinner, afterwards. And so I was going, and I wanted to get some iced tea, and I turned on the, the little spigot that they have, but I found a cup to put under it, and I didn't know that cup had a hole in it.
Oh,
And so it
no.
shot the cup across the floor, and it was just this big adventure, the whole thing, a big flood patrol, and I don't know. People will have to read it to see what happened, how it ended up. But and I also got the wrong coat that was nothing like my coat during that writers conference, and I had to sneak it back. And it was like there was another thing that happened. There was like 3 different like weird things with my vision loss, that happened during that. Oh, when I found myself in the closet, I had to
Oh,
leave
no.
one of the conference halls. I had to leave one of the sessions to go and talk to a publisher to see if I could get one of my books published, and I found my way out of the session, but into the closet. So I had to figure out how to get out of there without losing my, credibility, or without looking silly. So that's another one of the stories that's in there. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, how did you get out of that closet?
Well, I just finally just said, "Oh, it's a great talk," and something.
Wrong door.
And thank you. And I just slipped out the door. Oh, I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of humorous.
Well, did they end up selling your book?
Well, I ended up being like one of the people that I mentored with an agent, and we started working on my book. But then this other book, the Mobility Matters book, came first, so it just kept one coming to the forefront. Yeah. So.
Oh, wow. Well, Amy, tell us how we can reach you.
So I have a website. It's amybovaird.com. That's AMY B as in boy, OVAIRD.com. There's tips for mobility. There's music. There's I have a weekly blog with humorous stories, and that comes out every Tuesday. And also, I'm on Amazon. You can find my books at Amazon.com, at iTunes, and Audible.com. My books are available in large print and regular print and audio.
One more time, give us the name of your books.
It's Mobility Matters, Stepping Out in Faith. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is Cane Confessions, The Lighter Side to Mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is called Seeking Solace, Finding Joy After Loss. That's about a couple of different losses in my life. When my dad passed away, and I went through some problems, some challenges there. And I also have a couple ebooks out. One is called Hitting a Home Run, Blind and Thriving, and the other one is about the loss of I suffered the loss of my twin girls, and this is called Time to Dance, Finding Joy After Child Loss. It's really, really sweet. It's a really nice story. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but it sounds like you've made it out and above all of that.
That's right. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you today, Amy. And I'm gonna try the scalloped potatoes and ham. They sound mighty good.
Oh, yeah, well, I think you'll like them.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you for listening, everyone. This has been Renee Rentmeester, Cooking Without Looking TV show. Our website is www.cookingwithoutlooking.tv.wordpress.com. You can reach out to me in the old-fashioned way, 305-200-9104. And as we like to say, thank you for helping us change the way we see blindness. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
I don't know.